Let's say, what is semantic space? The space of experience, right? So, what is this experience? All of us, we have an experience. Okay, what is that experience? Obviously, a distinct sensory perception. All forms of observations that we have are only experience, right? For example, we may use a Hubble telescope. We can use atomic force microscope. This is simply, we are extending our sensory perception. The boundary of perception is extended. And then we have this experience, right? And different levels of experience we have, as I told earlier: physical, mental, intellectual, spiritual. And when I'm talking about semantic machine, we are only talking the sensory level semantic machines. So in this, what is an object? What is a semantic object? If I ask this question, what is that semantic object? A semantic object is that which gives me a distinct experience. So, experience and semantic object, they are one and the same. And any object that I want to experience physically, I have to go to 5 semantic space. That is sound, touch, smell, form, and taste. These are the 5 space. I just remember when we were doing, in our class 2, we have to we have to perform lab before our final board exam. And we used to have this salt, identification experiment. And given a salt, how do you know what salt it is? Whether it's a sodium chloride or it is potassium permanganate. Whatever the salt is given to us, we have to identify it. So you have to, looking at the color or something, you have to first start with some kind of heuristics. Oh, I have to follow this experimental setup, and based on that, I may figure out. And that's really because you are given maximum 1 hour to do this test. And what we were really frightened. So we used to go to the lab assistant, and he will put that salt in his mouth and would tell, this is the salt. He will not do any experiment. And it is exact. And we will understand that, and we know that if this is the salt, then these are the experiments we need to do. But he could understand this is the salt simply by taste. Okay? So, and in many, you ask an efficient cook to so many, experts, they figure out many things simply by taste, right? So similarly, we have this 5 semantic space, and we have never ever entered into the details how this space, where are these space. So this is what my next one, semantic space. What is space? Suppose I ask you, what is space? Can anybody answer me? What is space? Space gives you an identity. Like there are 2 personalities here, you make a distinction based on space. Do a thought experiment, space is withdrawn. All distinction will fall apart. Imagine the visual space is already withdrawn. But you can't make any distinction, right? So space, the fundamental property of the space is, space gives us an identity, a distinct identity, right? And 2 objects, like for example, I am speaking and you speak, right? So there are 2 voices. So in the space of sound, there are 2 distinct objects. My voice, your voice. And we have not figured out how this can be done. So basically, what I am talking about, that in a space, objects stay and they have a definite structure. spatial structure. So whether it is visual space, whether it is tactile space, whether it is sound space, so these are all different space. And this space is not only the resting place. And what is an object? Object is an information. And this information rests in the space. Not only that, in Bhagavata Sankhya it says that information is so fundamental that space emerges from the information. And I can explain you how that happens. For example, when you are a small child, right? You are given an apple, you are given an orange. Will you make a distinction? You can't. Whatever is given, you put into the mouth. That's what you do. Why? Because the space, the visual space has not emerged. The visual space emerges within us based on the information that I associate. And that's how it happens. So space gives every object a shape and structure. For example, when I understand what is an apple and you saw an apple, what happens to you? 5 space gets excited, right? In the visual space, you recognize this is the shape of the apple. Looks like an apple, right? And your inner sound space would tell whether this apple from Kashmir or Italy or whatever, right? And the space of touch, if I touch that apple, I will recognize whether it is ripened, it is hard and soft. Based on that, I will figure out what is the state of that apple. Similarly, if I taste it, I will know its sweetness, right? So basically, to be able to internalize what is this apple for me, all these 5 space has to be activated, and you make a meaning out of apple. Simply seeing an apple doesn't make any sense, in a complete sense to me. So if you see the current notion of space, okay, so space is the boundless 3-dimensional extent in which objects and events have relative position and direction. That can be another one definition. Isaac Newton said space is absolute in the sense that it existed permanently and independently of whether there was any matter in the space. Leibniz said no. He thought instead that space was in fact a collection of relations between objects. Similarly, Immanuel Kant, and we have many mathematical space like Euclidean, non-Euclidean, Hilbert, exotic manifold, fiber bundle, and so forth. But we cannot use them for developing semantic space. Semantic space is resting place of semantic objects. All the space that we have, they are the resting place of the syntactic objects, meaningless objects. And space is not absolute. Space always emerges based on the meaningful information with which we associate. And something very important, space is hidden in the information. So it takes the shape as the information gets connected to various referents, because through that the meaning is derived. So this requires even much more. So now let us try to figure out how can we look at this space, right? So there are 3 things.